It's time! It's time! You like that? You like that? Woo!
It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford, in what looks like a dark location today, is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Can't be bothered turning the light on, old bean.
I like it. Energy crisis, be damned. Neil's saving the planet one light bulb at a time.
Yeah, what are you doing? That's my rallying cry.
Not enough. Not enough. Neil, we are right in the middle of the off season. A few months away from training camp. A few months away from draft season in fantasy redraft leagues. We are looking for content before I go to Florida for 2 weeks. This week, we're drifting back into Weird World. Why wouldn't we? It's the off season. Got 2 classic stories. And Neil came up with an idea of, let's have a look at NFL award predictions that won't be given out for another, 9 months. Let's not pick the favourites and give reasons why we think people outside of those obvious candidates would win awards. So we're going to do that for MVP, offensive player, defensive player, rookies, comeback player, and coach.
Yeah. Under no circumstances did I steal the idea from this Tuesday's podcast edition of Establish the Run with Evan Silver and Adam Levitan.
Amazing. I'm glad that nobody will be fined / arrested in the making of this podcast. But before we get to that, Neil, let's go on with some Weird World because I've got a couple of classics. Neil, you've been known in the past to have an illness. You have been known in the past to be criticised. This is a long time ago, for taking a day off from work. However, yours have always been fully justified and proven through doctors.
Yep.
You've also never been charged with faking a pregnancy to get paid time off. And you're probably thinking, no one else has. Robin Folsom of Georgia, step forward.
Nearly Florida.
Nearly Florida for those who are any good at maps. Sometimes people lie and say they're sick to skip work, but a Georgia woman named Robin Folsom went one big step further when she faked a pregnancy in order to get 7 weeks paid time off. I mean, let's first of all talk about the American working system when you only get 7 weeks paid time off. But anyway, and it wasn't even the first time she lied about giving birth, but now she's facing 3 counts of making false statements and 1 count of identity fraud.
Brilliant.
When Folsom's employers first sent us this case, we thought there had to be a misunderstanding. We couldn't believe it, State Inspector Scott McAfee said. She told elaborate lies about her pregnancy while working as the Director of External Affairs for Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. She informed the agency about her pregnancy in late 2020 and claimed to give birth in May 21. Folsom's colleagues quickly grew suspicious. Though Folsom did have a baby bump, one of her colleagues noted that something wasn't quite right. In March 2021, a co-worker observed that the lower portion of Folsom's stomach had come away from her body and believed Folsom wore a fake pregnant stomach. Neil, what is the most elaborate thing you said about being sick when it was just you didn't want to go into work?
See, I'm never particularly creative because, as you say, annoyingly, most of my absences were always actually justified, through asthma or various aches and pains and ailments. I mean, I did work with someone who the same granddad died 3 times. And I was keeping track, but the managers weren't.
Yeah, I think we've all had a cold that you probably could have gone in with, but you decided to take the day. I always enjoyed in the past, especially when you were in school, You had Monday to Thursday off. You ain't going to go back into school on that Friday. That was ridiculous. So you took the full week. The idea and the suggestion that you would fake a pregnancy is elaborate beyond belief. And I do like the idea that you go in a whole hog and you getting prosthetics and all sorts just to get 7 weeks off. It's not like if it was like the UK where you get like 6, like maybe you'd be, but she's only getting 7 weeks off and she's buying prosthetics. Is that really your best use of money? Is she getting the full pay?
I mean, I've had an extended period of special leave from work. This wasn't maternity or paternity or whatnot. And to be honest, after 3 weeks, I was bored stupid. So the idea of 7 weeks, especially going through all the paraphernalia to perpetuate the myth, that's clearly someone who just cannot be bothered working. So the hat goes off, but also the scowl comes in of, come on.
Let's move on to the next story, Neil. I am married, you are engaged. I've been married previously. You have had multiple girlfriends previously. This headline's going to...
Thank you for this. This is making me sound like a real player. Please continue.
You're welcome. A newlywed man in India just died after his wife's ex-lover gifted them a stereo filled with explosives.
Oh.
Investigators say that the newlywed bride's ex-lover planted a bomb inside a wedding gift after becoming enraged that she'd agreed to marry another man. Let's take a few steps back. Neil,
lot to unpack here. Yeah.
Lot to unpack. I would like the percentage chance that, say, for example, Kate did you the honour and you got married, that one of your ex-girlfriends would give you a gift.
Vegas is no longer taking odds.
So that means even less chance that that gift would be an exploding piece of equipment.
Yeah, I think if I was to receive a gift and you'd hope that they'd put a card on it to see who it was from, the rigorous security screening going on at any wedding that I would be involved in I'd want it checked.
According to the Indian Express, a day before the wedding, Markham, who was called his ex-lover, he was the guy who blew everyone up. You are getting married, but you will never be happy, he threatened Marawi, who was the gentleman who was exploded. He hid the bomb inside a home stereo system and wrapped it up as a wedding gift for the new couple. Police say Markham had a friend give him a ride to the venue where he sneaked inside and hid the box beneath a pile of other gifts. A few days after the wedding, Marawi and his brother plugged the stereo in and turned it on, triggering the explosion. A few things to unpack here. This is a recent story. When was the last time you plugged in the stereo, Neil?
I know not what you speak. I mean, we don't know I don't know the area they're from. I don't know the socio-economic background of the family, but you think a stereo in this day and age, most people be like, thanks. We'd rather have had the vouchers.
That is a terrible gift. What's the worst gift you've ever received off a loved one or family member?
A DNA kit for Christmas. So essentially my Christmas present was the opportunity to spit into a tube.
Did you find out that you were related to a famous person or have some kind of underlying health condition that's gone through the generations?
No, I found out that I'm 1% Sierra Leone in my DNA. Not that 1% either, folks.
Weird World is back for the off-season, and if you've got any weird stories that you want to share with us, please share them to either at ndutton13, at Mandy7, or are combined at waxing_lyrical, which reminds me I need to tweet soon before Elon Musk takes it away for underuse.
He, seriously, I mean, friend Denny talks about never logging off and being online all the time. Elon Musk has a problem. But, this may be breaking news to some, but This latest one of now Twitter Blue subscribers can post 2-hour-long videos. Who is watching a 2-hour video on Twitter? Elon, please stop. Stand down. Do something else.
Who's watching a 2-hour video that isn't a film?
Yeah.
Wild. Neil, let's get on with the NFL part of the show. So unbeknownst to me, as I haven't listened to Establish the Run this week, Neil has stolen an idea for them in terms of NFL awards predictions. The concept, Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, is the award and a pick, but that pick can't be the favourite. So what we look to do is drift into more, outside the box thinking.
Yeah, they were looking at long shots, but not completely unrealistic long shots. So someone who, is not in the first few names you'll see, but someone who you could tell yourself a story about how they could possibly win the award.
As we said, we're going to do MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, Defensive Rookie, Comeback Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year. And Neil, let's start at the bottom and work our way up to MVP. So I would like your Coach of the Year, please.
Well, I think Coach of the Year is generally, it's not given to the coach of the team who goes to the Super Bowl or is the number one seed unless they've come from absolutely nowhere to do it. So you're looking at a coach of a team that might not have the most projected wins, but they do scrape a good season together. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they just post a winning record. So I think one of these reclamation projects, as it were, is the Carolina Panthers, because they play in a weakish division. It could be said, is up there for grabs. So I think Frank Reich, who I think has been a Coach of the Year, if not, he's certainly, been up there with the job that he did while he was in Indianapolis. So I don't think he's a terrible shout. And you say he's not among the favourites for the award. And, the Panthers could be good this year, or at least you'd expect them to build on how they finished last season, now that they might have an upgrade at quarterback.
I always look at this and think you need a good quarterback and a favourable schedule. Last year I was all in on the Philadelphia Eagles train months before Neil was, because first of all they'd made the playoffs the year before, and second of all they had a really easy schedule. In a similar thing, although nowhere near as easy as last year's schedule for the Philadelphia Eagles, my Coach of the Year candidate is Doug Peterson of the Jacksonville Jags. They play the AFC South, which is a bonus. Not only do they play it, they get to play it twice. That's super cool. They play the AFC North and also play the NFC South. Breaking news, the NFC South is Pooh George. So AFC South and NFC South equals wins. Do they have other difficult games? Well, yeah, they will have to play the Bengals. They will have to play. They have to play the Ravens. I'm sure the games against Browns and Steelers won't be easy. They have to play the Bills and they have to play the Chiefs. But can they win 12 to 13 games? Yes, I think they can, which is kind of frightening from a Jacksonville point of view. But therefore, I am going with Doug Peterson as possible Coach of the Year candidate. Neil, who's your comeback player of the year?
Now, comeback player of the year, as we know, is the most nebulous award on the entire slate, because it's never really been set. Yeah, what are they coming back from? I mean, Chad Pennington won this award twice. Years he was coming back from serious injuries. More often than not, we see players winning it when they're coming back from being crap. Now, assuming he makes the roster and assuming he plays 20 snaps a game, Damar Hamlin is going to walk away with this award from a long way out.
Correct.
There are still questions as to whether he makes the roster and whether he becomes a big enough part of the team to justify it, but anyone else, quite frankly, is a long shot. Now, again, we talk about long shots, but this is a long shot that I think can happen. I do not think it is beyond the realms of possibility that because of injury and hating the other quarterback, that Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers at the start of the season, and that given the system around him, given the play caller, given the yak attack, that he does enough to keep the job, and the 49ers have a good season, playoff, division title, gets the playoffs, and Darnold doesn't cripple them. So essentially, Darnold does what another former Jets quarterback does and shows that he can actually play when things aren't toxic around him.
It really angers me that basically what we're doing right now is, which is the quarterback who is with Kyle Shanahan, it'll be fine. However, I can't get that mad because I have took a similar approach. As you've quite rightly pointed out, I have no concept of what this award actually means. But what if the Denver Broncos won 10 games and the cook himself, Russell Wilson, is put back in his box where he hands the ball off and throws sexy deep balls? This is a Sean Payton related comeback player of the year award, but back from the dead, is there a possibility that Russell Wilson could win this award? I'm not 100% sure, but in the show of this kind of concept, I do think it's good to shoot for the moon, and it's more than likely that Russell Wilson is now shit. However, I do like the idea of Sean Payton turning them back into the guy in Seattle, and me again increasing the narrative that Pete Carroll was always right.
I think there's more chance of Jarrett Stidham starting more games this season than Russell Wilson has of winning this award.
As you quite rightly point out, if DeMar Hamlin plays a game this season, this award is over and is shown by the odds as his clear favourite. But we've picked a guy who played 15 games last year and a former draft pick who hasn't been good ever. So this is the way you do this award. Neil, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, the overwhelming favourites for this would be, the guys taken up front. Jalen Carter, or names blanking. What was the fellow the Texans took? Anderson.
Will Anderson.
Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, something like that. But I say we're not looking for the low-hanging fruit. We're going deep. Now, this is a player who, for some reason, I appear to have become a award-winning cheerleader for. But I like the chances for, Kancey from Tampa to get on the field early and to make impactful snaps, because I don't think this team's going to be very good. So I think he's going to have to play, and I think he's good enough that he can do something with his opportunities. So as an outside-the-box bet, I don't really think it's a terrible call. I mean, as I say, you'd expect Jalen Carter, should get on the field quite early. Anderson should see the field early, but I still think the Texans are shit, and he'd have to be very good to not just be, well, he played okay on a bad defense. You saw last year that, Sauce Gardner, maybe more of him to come, transformed the defense with his play. I think we'd have to expect Will Anderson to do something similar, whereas the other people have been taken, in theory, are on slightly better spots. Although, as I say, the Bucs may well be horrific this year.
I picked a player who will be on a bad team but a good defense. I picked Christian Gonzalez, who will be on the New England Patriots. There's only two ways defensive players go on a Bill Belichick scheme. They're either great or not playing. I expect him to play, therefore he'll be great. Now, where he may fall down is the other teams may not need to throw that often because they'll be miles ahead and can run the ball. However, I do think Christian Gonzalez will be excellent, and he's in a division where, joking aside on the running, they've got three quarterbacks who want to throw a lot, so he will get ample opportunity to defend wide receivers, given the fact the three quarterbacks is against the two, Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. Neil, who is your offensive rookie of the year?
Now, there's one position that we know does not generally do well as a rookie, or the whole rookie contract, really, and that's tight end. But what if the Bills are not just blowing smoke and do actually think Dalton Kincaid can come in and be almost the second receiving option behind Stephon Diggs? If that's the case, then I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that he could have an offensive rookie of the year season. If he has, 70 catches, 750 yards, 8 touchdowns, it might not look terrible, especially as this is not a, if we're going to assume that Bijan Robinson is the overwhelming favourite for this award, which, spoiler alert, he is, playing on a potentially better team, Dalton Kincaid might make more noise, especially, tethered to one of the game's better quarterbacks. Obviously, we're still expecting I think it would require Bijan to be a massive disappointment for him not to win this award, but it's one of those awards that quarterbacks don't tend to win this. Because, there's not been that many great rookie quarterbacks recently. It's usually another position. So I think we're right to look elsewhere. But, don't be wrong, it'd be a major shot in the arm for the brand if Dalton Kincaid was excellent as a rookie. But,
I think for this award, as you said, it's tough for quarterbacks, mainly given the fact that usually on crap teams, which makes it difficult. Being on a decent team and getting opportunities is the way to go, and you picked Kincaid. I'm going to pick Jackson Smith-Njigba, who will be the third wide receiver on the Seattle Seahawks, and I expect to get a lot of play because you can't cover all of them. And I expect the Seahawks to be good again this year. Not great, but good. I think another chance of a playoff position. Two of the teams in their division are absolute dog dirt, so it's not surprising they should win 4 of those games. I expect Smith-Njigba to score many points, catch many balls, get many yards. So offensive rookie of the year for me is Jackson Smith-Njigba.
They certainly have been screaming out for a third option in that passing game ever since Metcalf got there. And, it wouldn't shock me if he was the most productive rookie pass catcher. I just think he's not going to do I don't think he's going to be the guy. And usually to win this award, as I say, the offensive rookie of the year, if it's a wide receiver, he needs to come in and be the guy. And I just don't think he's going to do that. That's why I didn't go with it for him myself.
Defensive player of the year, Neil.
I'm going to go with Sauce Gardner, as he came in last year and showed that he was, he was him. It's not quite Revis Island, but, a lot of people got stuck in the sauce. And, he clamps down one side of the field and makes you play left-handed, as it were. He's not a match-up cornerback. He stays on one side of the field. Hat tip to Greg Cosell for that one. But he does shut that side of the field down. So I think, the Jets, you look at their formula for success, it might be they just need a quarterback upgrade, which obviously they're going to get, and they might build themselves on how they were successful in 2009-10, where they had, the ground and pound, a facilitator at quarterback. I know Rodgers is more than that, but a beastly defense with the premier shutdown corner in the NFL, and I think they're on the way to that. So while I think this is one of those awards that, it's hard for a cornerback to win it, the favourites are going to be, your Micah Parsons, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, the Bosa's. But I think Gardner is fast becoming the guy at his position.
It would be easy for me to pick Sauce Gardner. I wanted to, but Neil had picked him first, so I'm not going to. I think this can come across as a counting stats award. Based on that, you'd want someone who's going to actually catch a lot of interceptions or be thrown at a lot, like Sauce, or someone who's got the opportunity to get a lot of sacks because his team are ahead a lot. Based on that, I'm going to go a bit left field and pick Aiden Hutchinson, Detroit Lions. Opportunity with the fact that I think there'll be in a lot of shootouts, there'll be a lot of passing going on in games by Lions opponents, that he can pin his ears back and get a few sacks, get 10 plus sacks, and the Lions win their division. Absolutely an opportunity that Aiden Hutchinson could well be Defensive Player of the Year.
From the team formerly known as our Lions, now your Lions.
Now my Lions, yeah. Neil, who's your Offensive Player of the Year? If the award of Comeback Player of the Year is nebulous, I dread to think what we think of this one.
Oh, this is the best player who was not a quarterback who didn't win MVP. That's what this is, because some of the thinking last year was Mahomes was MVP and Hurts was the Offensive Player of the Year. What? I don't. This does not compute. I really wish that. Please, can we just call it Player of the Year? As the value, fuck off. Just for want of a better word, let's just call it Player of the Year. I think there is a player who is going to benefit from a new system and a new type of quarterback that's around him. It's someone who's already shown he is, when he's fully healthy, one of the best players at his position. He's going into a contract year, and the Alfred Morris corollary, as friend Matt Kelly always talks about, when you have a mobile quarterback, that helps the running back. Now, we saw for the offense that Shane Steichen has come from, he had a stable of backs. None of them, as he's now in Indianapolis, none of them were Jonathan Taylor. So I think Taylor is going to be the workhorse of this team. They're going to mix in the run with Anthony Richardson and say, obviously try and help develop him as a passer, but Taylor's going to do a lot of heavy lifting because the Colts have got no real incentive to not use him. It's last year of his contract. So again, this is one of those awards that you look at, Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or AJ Brown, something like that, the wide receivers from Miami. But thinking away from them, I think Taylor is going to be someone who I'm targeting in fantasy drafts in the first round to be my bell cow back, as it were. And I think he's going to get a lot of work and a lot less attention because of having Anthony Richardson in the backfield with him.
If this is a narrative award, why not give it to someone who isn't a quarterback, who has dominated this position for multiple years and is the best player in his position right now, and that's Travis Kelce. Also, everyone likes him. I think this is again in a narrative award. It's always helpful that people like you. Last year, he was so far and away the best tight end in terms of numbers. It was actually frightening. Something like the difference between him and 2 was the same between 2 and 22. I'm not 100% sure they've necessarily upgraded their wide receiver core to such an extent that he's not going to get all the targets, all the yards, and all the touchdowns. And when does someone just say, this man deserves an award for this work he's putting in? So therefore, I'd go Travis Kelce. Obviously, as Neil said, more likely to be Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, et al. However, as we're going a bit outside the box, I'm taking Travis Kelce.
I said I'd be targeting Jonathan Taylor in the first round of drafts. If I can start a redraft league, Kelce Mahomes, I'm doing it. I know you shouldn't. Is there the two positions you don't take?
Is there a logic that I'm second pick and I just take Travis Kelce? People laugh and I go, yeah, cool. Show me what you're doing at tight end.
Yeah, we've seen breakout wide receivers or breakout running backs. I mean, obviously, again, Denny Carter would be furious with us if we didn't advocate the zero RB strategy. But we're just going to say, yeah, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to tie off quarterback, tight end, so we don't have to worry about them. We've got the stack as well. And then we'll go from there. We've got two sure things and the most volatile positions. Okay, we'll go from there. As I say, the positional advantage that Travis Kelce gives you is greater than any other player in the NFL. Even if you had Jalen Hurts last year, if you had Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson a few years ago, it wasn't as great a positional advantage as Travis Kelce was over everyone else.
Who's going to be the MVP next year, Neil?
This is a blue sky process we're going through here. We're hoping everything goes well. We're hoping all these players stay healthy, and we're hoping that all the pieces around them click and fire. Despite the fact they didn't have as much draft capital or they didn't make as many splashy free agent signings as most teams, I don't think there are very many teams who did a better job with the little they had this offseason than the Miami Dolphins. Because, they've basically made a track team for Tua to throw to. Well, if Tua can stay healthy and this team can, catch fire, which it did last year, look how efficient Tua was. Well, let's have a full season of that. Let's see the numbers then. And what if this team, wins the AFC East and, all of a sudden, they're like one of the favourites? Well, a lot of the credit will go to McDaniel and Vic Fangio. But then you look on the field and say, well, Tua was the facilitator. So I don't think Tua is a terrible shout for outside of the favourites, if he can stay on the field.
Mine links to the coach of the year. If the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win 12 and 13 games, why wouldn't Trevor Lawrence be in the running for MVP? Because that's surely the way to go. So for me, the way the narrative of this award would work, they become, the 2 seed in the AFC. Trevor Lawrence throws for 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And his flowing locks are leading them to the MVP. That would be cool. A first London team MVP would be particularly nice. Let's recap. Neil picked Coach of the Year, Frank Reich. I picked Doug Peterson. Comeback Player of the Year, Neil went Sam Darnold. I went Russell Wilson. Defensive Rookie, Christian Gonzalez for me. Kalijah Kancey for Neil. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Neil picked Dalton Kincaid. I picked Jackson Smith and Jigba. Defensive Player of the Year, I picked Aiden Hutchinson. Neil Sauce Gardner. Offensive Player of the Year, Neil picked Jonathan Taylor. I picked Travis Kelce. MVP, Tua Tagovailoa for Neil, and I picked Trevor Lawrence. All probably going to be wrong, but a fun exercise nonetheless.
Yeah, £1 betting on all these could win you £3 million if they all came in.
Or could lose you
the pound. Yeah.
Neil, that's it for this week. Bit of a break now, as I am off to America on a scouting college mission for Florida. No, I'm actually just going to Universal Studios to ride all the roller coasters.
I'm not.
You're not. But you are an international traveller this year, Neil, and we will be talking to people as, hopefully, like many of our colleagues, you've thought, I'm not doing London this year. Do you know what I'm doing? Colts versus Pats, Frankfurt, because that's what me and Neil are doing.
We are.
Flights booked. Shack in central Frankfurt booked. And we are ready and raring to drink whatever ales the Frankfurters wish to drop on us. And we're looking forward to it. And we hope to see a lot of you there.
Especially if you can find us a karaoke bar in the middle of Frankfurt, please.
Or you're going to buy us beer. Me, more version 2 than version 1, as karaoke should be sent to the moon. Neil, before we're back in a few weeks, where can people catch you?
Just on the Twitter at N13, as I haven't written a damn tap for weeks.
Fantastic. I am at Mangy7 combined. We are at waxing_lyrical. It's the dark days of summer. We're upon us. We're going to take a couple of weeks off, but we will be back soon and we will do a similar show that we've just done in terms of awards, but fantasy style. Until then, enjoy your break. I know we will. These top guys are out.